necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show, and hey, we're showing up as the She-Squatchers. I'm Jen Cruz, your host, and I've got my trusty teammates on the line. I've got Jena Grover. Hey, Jena.
Hello, hello, hello.
And Tammy Trickle. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, everybody.
Looking gorgeous.
Thank you.
And everybody who did not catch it last week, I just have to brag up on our Tammy, who got her yellow belt in kickboxing.
Whoop, whoop. I'm officially a belted individual. Oh, and I would like to say thank you to my teacher, Jason Field, and it's in Yodo Martial Arts in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Check them out.
Yay! Well, good job. You did good with Tammy.
Very good. Tammy's going to protect us all.
Yes,
okay.
She is. She's a spider, people. Be careful.
That's right. That's right. Well, we've got to get to the show, ladies, because we have an extra special guest. We've got Don Sherman coming back to us from the Leech Lake Indian Reservation in northern Minnesota. Hi, Don. Are you there?
Hi. How you doing? Yes, I'm here.
Hey, I'm so glad you could come back and talk with us. What'd you say?
I said hi to everybody.
Oh, hello. We're glad to have you. You're like our most popular show on YouTube.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Everybody wants to know about all our Minnesota cryptids.
Oh, okay.
Can you tell us a little bit of your background so that people know more about you as we get started?
Well, I was born and raised on the Leech Lake Indian Reservation, and been retired now retired at age 60 and enjoying it. Let's see. I don't know what else to say about myself. That's about all I had to say.
Okay. Well, I know that you've been researching Bigfoots and cryptids, and the tribe has been backing you for that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, they just backed me on equipment and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And show their support what I'm doing. And I really appreciate that. I can give you an update from my last time I was on your show. Was that about 2 years ago?
That's what Jena says.
I believe, yeah.
I was like, I thought it was a year ago, but
I'm
Jena
not.
says too.
I'm not always right.
2018, I think the last time. 2018, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
2020 didn't count.
And we talked about dragons last time, about the cryptids, about dragons along the remote rivers of northern Minnesota.
Yes.
And well, we were supposed to go on some expeditions in 2018, 2019, and 2020 never got to because of the COVID stuff going on. But I never did get to go on an expedition. And it's usually in mid-May is when we're going to do this, because that's when that so-called breeding season of these dragons are. So being the water level was too high, weather didn't cooperate, so we never did get to go on one. And the water level has been pretty high, and it looks like it's going to be, hopefully it won't be high this year, but we'll just have to wait and see. So yeah, I'm going to try to plan another one here in mid-May.
So for those that are listening that don't know what the dragons are, can you explain what they look like and just kind of the background story of the dragons?
Uh, yeah, Paul Buffalo's biography, he kind of described them a little bit in his what they look like. Um, they're kind of tall, about 3 feet tall at the withers, and they look like a snake, but they have legs. And that's about all the description that I know of. And other than what we heard that one time we were paddling down that area of the river, they sounded like cows. Well, Paul Buffalo in his or his biography explained he kind of told what they sounded like. He said that during mating season in mid-May, and it's usually mid-morning, um, when they're mating, they make sounds like cows. Kind of strange, but that's
But back then there
exactly,
weren't any cows?
that's exactly what we heard.
Mhm.
That mid-May, about, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago. And they were loud, and there's no farms in the area. So curious to see what the heck made these sounds. And from reading this stuff about these dragons, my curiosity is pretty high on this here.
So how long have you been interested in when did you find out about these dragons?
Well, how I found out about it was for all that time we didn't know what the heck made those sounds, or it was a strange, because me and my brother-in-law were paddling our kayaks down the river, and I heard these sounds. I was the first one to hear it. Well, I heard the sounds. Then I hollered at my brother-in-law and said, "Do you hear that? Do you hear those cows or whatever?" I can't remember exactly what I said. "Do you hear those sounds?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "It's coming from my kayak." So his kayak was vibrating, but the sounds I heard was on both sides of the river. So I'm not sure exactly what he was hearing, but he didn't. He said he didn't hear any cows, but I did.
How many years ago was that?
This was probably about 7, 8 years ago.
Oh, wow. So I mean, it's a little bit more recent. I was thinking
Yeah.
that it was like 20 years ago.
Oh,
So
no.
these dragons, I don't know much about them, but how did you find out about them? Did you
Well,
say?
my cousin sent me an article, and of Paul Buffalo that used to live in Ball Club.
Hmm.
He's deceased quite a few years ago.
Okay.
But as I was reading through it, I noticed he talked about these dragons, and so that's where I got interested. So as I was reading it, um, that's when he described the mating season and the sounds that they make when they're mating.
So was there a lot of sightings then
So,
that kind of?
no, nobody has seen anything. So I was wondering what I heard then had to been those dragons.
Can you just kind of give us an example of how they sounded? I just have to hear it.
They sound exactly like cows. If you want to go to a, you know,
You know
anyway,
what cows sound like, Jenna. I know what cows
Yeah.
sound
Yes,
like.
I do.
Ooh.
I was just hoping he would he would give us
Don't listen to her. Don't listen to
cow
her.
impressions.
it, it sounded exactly like I was next to a farm.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Exactly, with a bunch of cows.
And there's no
Huh.
farms out
And
there.
there's no cows there. And then I Googled the area too with the Google Maps, Google Earth, I mean. I checked out the area. There ain't no farm there for miles. So,
And what I thought was interesting too, when in Paul Buffalo's biography, uh, didn't you say that at the time that he talked about this, there were no cows up in this area at all? Like,
yeah, yep.
no cows.
Exactly.
This is way back when.
No cows, no farms, no nothing.
So for those that don't know, cows are not indigenous to this continent. They were
No.
brought here.
Yeah.
So, you know,
And for them to be along the river there, it's too marshy, it's too wet. So, yeah, I don't know what it is yet.
Did you
But
see
hopefully we'll find
these
out
dragons?
soon. Huh?
Did you see these dragons?
No, I just heard them.
You know, have you seen all the pictographs and the the pictographs, the drawings that the old natives did. I've seen drawings of what looks like snakes with 4 legs.
Yeah, and there's other tribes too. I think some over in by Texas, somewhere in that area, that they have been seeing some sort of snakes or large snakes.
Mm-hmm. And they're pretty large.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
large.
And
So
looking at Google Earth, I was kind of looking at the waterways and stuff like there's a lot of creeks and stuff flowing into this river, and you can see major trails along these marshes and stuff. So I don't know what kind of animal or what kind of creature made these trails, but you can see these things on Google Earth.
So what did the trails look like? I'm just curious. You said that these dragon.
It's just like some kind of animal walking, making a path through the marsh and stuff like that.
Oh, so it wasn't like slithering, sliding with
No.
the feet. Okay.
No.
awesome. Well, that's interesting stuff. I would be interested to know more about those dragons. I hope you can get out there sometime soon and check that out in May.
And as far as if anybody else wants to go on the expedition, people are welcome to.
Well, let us know when you're going, and maybe we can come up.
Yeah, I'll do that.
I'm hoping to have my COVID vaccine by then. So hopefully by then.
Yeah. But we
I
do
hope-
have some. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. What were you going to say?
But I do have some other interesting stories, though. No, I'm just going to be talking just stuff around Balkleb area.
Okay.
Because we got a lot of stuff happening around here. A lot of strange paranormal stuff. Strange creatures are being seen. But anyway, I'll tell you a story that just happened. My niece come to visit me here about last spring, and she told me she was a witness to a Bigfoot that got hit by a vehicle.
Oh.
Now this happened in November 2019. It's right after deer season, just south of Balkleb. Her and her friend, I'm not going to give no names. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay, it was my niece, so she told me a Bigfoot was hit. I said, I asked her, well, how come you didn't tell me about this sooner? Right after, she said, well, she was scared, so she was told not to talk about it. So that's why she didn't tell me right away.
Can you tell us more about what happened and who told her to say that? I mean, who told her?
I'll tell you what she kind of told me. Her and her friend were headed towards Balkleb, south of Balkleb. They were coming from south of Balkleb area, and they were headed. There was about probably around 6 inches of snow on the ground, and they were coming by close. They were getting close to the Mississippi River. There's a bridge there, and there was a car coming, she said. And anyway, as they were cruising along, they were getting pretty close to this car. And all of a sudden, this thing came out of the woods, she said. That would be on the east side of the road. It was headed to the west. And she slammed on her brakes. And you see, what is that? She said, I don't know. She said, it looks like only thing I could describe is Chewbacca, she said. And it had glowing red eyes as it was coming out of the ditch. Well, as it came out, this thing, she said it happened so fast. They hit her brakes. This other car was coming. They hit it. And they saw this thing get hit. It rolled hit the car front end, and it rolled into the windshield, and it landed back into the ditch. So it caved her windshield in. And then as she saw this thing get up, take off back into woods, headed towards the river. So they get out and stop, and they look at their car, make sure nothing happened, because that's how close they were to it. And the other car stopped, and they were looking at the damage of it. It was pretty much totaled the car out front end. And so anyway, as they were looking at it and talking to the other people, the other people in the other car that hit it, they must have called 911. As Highway Patrol was the first to arrive, she said. Then a couple other cars with canines then came right after that. So they were all inspecting the vehicle, looking it over, couldn't find any blood or hair. And so anyway, they told my niece and these other people to go on home and don't talk about this. So they give them a stern warning, the Highway Patrol. I don't know which one, if it was a Highway Patrol or somebody else. I don't know which person said that to her. So they got a little worried. They don't want to talk about it. So they never did, and that was the first one they told. And so anyhow, as she was talking, she said, well, then the other car, I guess, was still drivable, but they had to pull the windshield off in order to drive it, because that's how it was kind of pushed inside. So they just pulled it out and threw it off into the ditch. Well, knowing my niece, I thought she was overactive imagination, or she was just might have had a little too much of something. So anyway, so I said, well, why don't you go show me the area? So we went out to the site, because I didn't quite believe her, you know. She has a tendency to tell tall tales from what other people are telling me, but she's really a great person, though. So we went out to the site, and she didn't quite remember how, because she said it happened so fast, she wasn't looking at around. So she said, somewhere around this area, she said. So we got to looking, and I'll be darned if I didn't find that windshield.
Oh.
And you can see where the glass was when it hit the Sasquatch, it through the glass. You could see the pattern and the fan pattern. So yeah, the whole windshield was laying there, so I grabbed that.
I am just shocked. I'm shocked that there's no hair or blood. So this
Well,
must have just
I
been just
I've
not
never
touched.
really looked at it that close neither.
Oh,
There's a lot of broken pieces of glass, and you'd have to. So I just picked everything up and put it in a bag. So I haven't even really looked at it yet. So it's still in that bag that I put it in.
So what happened to the Bigfoot?
Well, anyway, after they hit it and they told him to leave, they blocked it road off. The roads in that area, they blocked them off for about 3 to 4 hours. And they had their canine dogs, you know, tracking this thing to see if they could find it, to see if it wasn't a human or whatever. Well, obviously they didn't find nothing from my understanding. And I put the word out on other sites, and I got a respond back on that somebody had the police report on it.
Oh.
And well, he told me what was in the police report, and it was just somebody who hit a small baby moose, and they give the meat out to the Native Americans in this area. Well, I knew that wasn't true. Nobody got no moose meat in the area here in Ball Club. So it was just kind of whoever did the report obviously covered it up, or doesn't want it to be known. You know, I don't know why they're doing that, but a lot of Bigfoot researchers are concerned about this cover-up stuff. Why are they covering it up?
I'm wondering that too.
Yeah, and I don't really know why they're covering it up. Maybe because of the spotted owl situation they had at one time. I think that was in Washington or Oregon, somewhere.
Well, and another thing could be, if people knew that Bigfoot was real, maybe they would not leave him alone.
Yeah, they really shouldn't be covering it up. People need to know. We have a right to know that.
Yeah.
So Any of you police out there are listening. Anyhow, that's the story on that so far.
Well, that's a good story.
Yeah, it was pretty. Oh, and Andrea and I, which was really interesting, by hearing that story, because we were doing research out in that area all summer long, and we were getting a lot of activity, a lot of tree knockings, a lot of brush crashing and stuff like that. We had there was one tree knock that was coming from one area. Then there was about 8 other Sasquatch, or sure they were the only things that are doing the tree knockings, but there were tree knockings from different areas throughout the area where we're at. And they were all answering this one particular knock, is what we noticed.
What did that knock sound like? Was it just like a straight one knock, like a pop? Or
One knock. Then, yeah, it was just one knock. Then
And they
there
were all-
were other knocks in various areas of knock. They'd answer back. So,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, I always thought that was, I got recordings of that.
So I don't think that we've ever really paid attention to looking at the ball club area, but I was curious, how far away is that from Bena and from 6 Mile Lake? So I just looked it up. It's not that far.
13 miles to Bena.
Yeah. And 6 Mile Lake is, we've researched that area down there.
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of sightings, especially in the ball club area. I think there's more sightings around ball club area than there is anywhere else here in this area that I know of.
Hey.
And you're talking about just Bigfoot sightings? Or
Bigfoot
sightings?
sightings and a lot of other strange occurrences
Cryptids?
happening here. Yep.
Okay.
Well,
Let's hear it.
I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but a lot of the Ojibwe or Native American villages are built on or near these interdimensional portals or vortexes, you call them. Medicine men would choose a location of villages, so I think there's vortexes or portals here in Ball Club, and the purpose of having, locating a village near these vortexes or portals, of interdimensional portals, I believe, is because the medicine men communicate with the spirit world or the creator or the great spirit. A lot of power in these areas that have these vortexes. I'm talking stuff that I wouldn't mess with. It's not, I'm not into the Ojibwe religion, so I kind of don't want to know too much about it, or I do know a lot about it, but I feel uncomfortable talking about it.
That's completely understandable. Don't feel bothered.
So
Yeah.
my elder from Panema up in Red Lake told me that they used the people. He said my ancestors actually did this. Would travel through. He said they'd walk through the stone to other places, and so one of the places that they went was down to the southwest to the Hopi.
Yeah.
And they were trading goods for the tribe. They would bring goods down there and trade with the Hopi and come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was talking about, I believe, using those portals to travel to different places to trade goods with other tribes.
Yeah. Well, the Ojibwe had what they call I think the word is Jizikon. It was the shaking tent ceremonies.
Mm-hmm.
You familiar with that?
Yes.
Yeah, and they communicate with the animal spirit world, stuff like that, to get information to help the people or settle differences or stuff like that. It's
they use the Mikanecker. They use the Mikanecker, the turtle, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandmother witnessed stuff like that when she was a little girl because women weren't allowed at those ceremonies back then. I don't know how it is now. Um, but yeah, that's pretty interesting that because I think the talking to a lot of the people here and the stories that they're seeing and stuff like that, it says Ball Club has got to be near a pretty powerful portal. Deer hunters have heard strange screamings in the woods and brush parting and stuff like that, and scare the living daylights out of them and said they'll never go back there and hunt again. My niece had an account or experience with she was in a camper, staying in a camper just north of Ball Club here, and I guess they were outside for a while. Then they heard these growling and screaming, and she could hear brush cracking and stuff. They actually said they saw like small trees parting as this thing was coming towards them, growling. So they went into their camper. As they got into their camper, now this is at night, dark. Get in their camper, then short later that they could hear something jump on their camper, and they could hear two footsteps walking on the roof. So whatever this thing was couldn't have been that heavy, but it had been kind of a small being or whatever it was. They don't know what it was, if it was a Bigfoot or something else. They have no clue. Some of the stuff like that, that's been happening. Let's see.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So around that area, I know you said there was a lot of different sightings here in the last few years. Do you think any people are maybe trying to create sightings for people, Bigfooters to come?
No.
Just curious. You don't
No.
think anybody would do that?
No.
Okay. I was just curious since there were so many.
They're reluctant to even tell these stories. I kind of have to pry it out of them.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Well,
Yeah.
and remember, Jenna, this is on the Indian reservation where they generally don't report to us.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because a lot of times they see it as a spiritual message that
Yeah.
they saw the Bigfoot. So then
Yeah.
they might go talk to their spiritual advisor to see if they could tell them what that meant.
Yeah.
But they typically don't say, "Hey, call up the BFRO. I saw the Bigfoot."
Yeah.
You know, they typically don't do that.
And I have to ask only because it happens, and sometimes people are just like that, and they better be careful out there because they don't know what they're getting into. I'm just warning you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Be careful.
So we just have a couple minutes before we go to our break. And I'm just really excited to hear more of the stories from around Ball Club because we know that's an active area. We've been out there. I've had experiences out, well, by 6 Mile Lake for sure, and that's not that far. We actually had looked at an area that was, is it south or north? I'm trying to remember which way it is from Bina, but it's more closer to Federal Dam area.
Ball Club?
The Federal Dam area, which is, I think, is it south of Bina?
It's south of Bina, yeah.
Yeah. We were out looking out in that area a little bit in the marshlands out there. And we had a report of a Bigfoot sighting out there in the daytime.
Mhm.
And we couldn't get permission to go out there. So we went out there at night and just stayed on the road with some really high-powered night vision camera that can see far away.
Mhm.
And we're just scoping out the area. And we didn't see Bigfoot there, but we saw these really strange lights instead that it couldn't have been from a vehicle out there. So that was interesting that we saw that. And
Yeah.
we are ready for our break. So we're going to take our commercial break. We'll be right back. Awesome. You're doing really good.
Thanks.
Loving the stories.
Are you going to talk about the Bigfoot Museum during the show as well?
Is that something you want to share with everybody, Don?
Not right now. I think because I'm just in the planning stage right now. It's the idea, and I'm just
Okay.
Okay.
hopefully I'll get something going here soon.
Yeah.
I'm just getting all the information together and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Don, I didn't mean to question the validity of any stories or anything. I like to ask questions, the hard questions. So,
Yeah.
But thank you for answering.
Oh, that's cool.
I could tell you really quick, when my elder was selecting the location for his sweat lodge, thank you, Sarge. He was walking out through the woods in the area that he thought he wanted to have it, and then he walked until he felt a zap from the ground up through his whole body, and that's where he marked that's where the sweat lodge goes.
Are we on back on air?
No, we got a few more seconds.
Go.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Hey, this is the Journey Radio Show, and we're the She-Squatchers. Won't you check us out online at she-squatchers.com? And we are on YouTube and on Facebook under She-Squatchers Official. And Tammy is reminding me to say that we're also on Instagram. She runs that. I don't.
And it is also She-Squatchers Official.
Yes, yes. So please come follow us and subscribe to our channel there. And Facebook is going to be where all the most current happenings are of what we're doing today and this week and next week and all that. So please come like and follow us there. So tonight we've got Don Sherman joining us from Ball Club, Minnesota, and the Leech Lake Indian Reservation. And we're so excited to hear more of the stories and the happenings of cryptids going on up in Minnesota. So back to the story.
Okay, I'll tell another little story here. This actually a story is my best friend told me this. And this was right in Ball Club here. He was staying at his mother's house, and him and his wife had a van, and they were gonna sleep out in the yard, out in the front yard. And the van had curtains on it. So anyway, during the middle of the night, he said about around, I think he said it was around midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. They wake up by something like rammed their van from the front, just shook the whole van. They thought somebody backed into them, but it was no vehicle. But anyway, so then he said he could hear these footsteps around his vehicle or around his van, and it sounded like a horse, clomping, where the hoofs make. Anyway, and he was parked in front of the porch of the house, of their mom's house there, and he could see this shadow of a person walking by between a porch light and the van. And but he said he looked like a man. He didn't want to open up the curtains. He said he was too scared. So this thing walked around his van and it sounded just like a horse, he said. And all of a sudden it grabbed the side of the front door. And of course the doors were locked. And he tried to open up the door, and it was shaking the van as he was trying to get it open. So my friend hollered at it, says, I got a gun and I'm going to shoot. So then the shaking stopped. Then that sound.
So he understood there was a danger.
Yeah. Anyway, he didn't hear it anymore. It was gone. Scared the living daylights out of him.
Was there any prints or anything around the van?
No. So that was pretty strange.
That is
The
strange.
place I'm talking about there, where that home is, there's a lot. I guess there's a lot of people have seen Bigfoot there. Um, there's I guess all through the years, a lot of strange things have been happening in that area. A lot of paranormal activities and stuff. But and not very far from there was another guy, good friend of mine. He was staying in a trailer house back in the woods back in there, and he said during the middle of the night, and he was living there all by himself in a area where there's nobody around for a ways, and he was just getting ready for bed around 10, 11, somewhere around there, midnight, and he heard this loud something running by his trailer house. There's a road right there, pretty close. But he said whoever it was running on 2 feet, and he had to have been 800 or so pounds because the ground shook when he was running by. Scared the living daylights out of him, too.
I bet.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of sightings. There was a sighting of a white one. Somebody seeing a white Bigfoot in their edge of their yard. That was a few years back. But
Wasn't the one at 6 Mile Lake that young man who was fishing from his canoe, wasn't that a blonde or a white one?
yeah, kind of a blondish colored, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a pretty amazing story of his, because I helped him when we did cast the tracks. We were paddling along the river to see the route where it took as it was walking along the water.
Oh,
You could
wow.
actually see the tracks and disturbance in the water where it kicked up logs and stuff like that. It was as it was searching for something in there, probably looking for clams.
Well, would you like to tell us that story for the listeners? I didn't know you were the one who helped cast those footprints. That's exciting.
Yeah. Well, I got a hold of Sammy Cleveland that night that he had that encounter, and so he said, meet me out there in the morning. We'll check it out. So I get out. So I meet him out there, and he already had a canoe out there, and so we paddled. He kind of showed me where he was fishing, and so we kind of paddled to where the creature walked along, and you can see the disturbance and see where it ran into the woods. So as we walk into the woods a little ways, and there were the tracks, right across this muddy area. It was clear. I mean, his tracks they're pretty amazing. So and then you can see where it stepped into the mud, and it stepped on a log, and it went across this low muddy area, and it was gone. I didn't see any more tracks after that. But
So, how many
I
tracks
had
did
some.
you make in all? Oh, I'm sorry.
There was probably about 4 tracks that we could see really good,
Nice.
and yeah, very distinctive on the toes and stuff.
Were they really like
It was
far beyond?
it was totally different than the one on 6 Mile track. These toes were kind of smaller and more. One toe was deformed, and they're similar to the castings of the tracks that I casted out in Paris, Texas. Um, they don't look like human tracks. But they're I don't think so. Kind of like deformed. I mean, you could see the 5 toes clear as a bell, but they were just wide, and they were about 17, 18 inches. But yeah, that was an amazing story. I think you could still see. You should be able to see that video of that on. I think it's on Facebook too. Not Facebook, but YouTube.
On which channel?
I'm not. I think it's. I don't recall what it was.
Okay.
I think it was Sammy Cleveland's cousin or nephew or somebody who put it
Okay.
on YouTube.
Okay. So would it be like 6 Mile Lake or
Yeah,
just search for that?
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
If I find a link to it, I'll text it to you.
I would appreciate that. That'd be awesome. Because I haven't seen the video of that.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, yeah.
No.
It's pretty
I've
amazing.
been back there. I've been back in the woods back there. It's nice and muddy back there. It's perfect.
Have
Yeah.
I been there, Jen? Is that where
Yes.
we went? Okay,
Yes.
that's okay. Okay, that's where it was all grown in, and we were hoping
Yeah.
that we could get back there. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought that's where it was, but okay, it's a beautiful area too.
So you were at
Oh.
that site where that happened then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went
There was a kind of like a boat landing there.
Yes.
Kind of
And
one.
then we went back in the woods. Well, if
There
you're
was
looking
no-
at the lake, we went
there
to the
was no
left.
homestead there at one time.
The homestead, yeah,
Yeah,
that was used to be there.
yeah.
I bet you that was freaky to be the only one who lived on that side of the lake.
Yeah.
Any stories about that from olden days?
Somewhat.
Are
I've
there
never-
any stories about that from the people who lived on that side of the lake?
I haven't heard any stories on that.
Okay. Because that would have been the only house on that whole side of the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been interesting. I'll have to do some more inquiring on asking a lot of people about stories years ago.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would love to hear those because I bet you there are some stories there. Because when I was back there, when we went back there at night,
Yep.
on a couple different occasions, rocks were thrown at us from we heard them coming through the trees and they'd bounce in front of us.
Mhm.
And then we heard something walking towards us that was definitely on 2 feet, very large, cracking big sticks as it walked. And that was kind of scary because all of a sudden there were more of them coming from different directions.
Yeah.
And it was dark. We couldn't see, night vision cameras can only light up. We didn't have the right kind of equipment for that. Because the night vision cameras that we had are more for indoors, and we didn't understand that they wouldn't light up the woods the way we thought they would.
Mhm.
We'll live and learn, I guess. But when we were getting surrounded, you could hear them coming. One of the girls said, "Do your tobacco thing, Jen." So I did. I did a tobacco offering, and I prayed out loud in Ojibwe, in the Ojibwe language, and as soon as I said "Miigwech kichisabe," it stopped. Everything just stopped. There was no more movement. It didn't retreat. It didn't come closer. Everything just stopped.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really, really cool because I had heard from elders from different reservations that you can pray to them and ask them to do things for you. There's one elder from the Turtle Mountain Reservation that told me that she asks Bigfoot to keep the deer off the road when she's driving so she doesn't hit a deer. And she said she literally sees them on the side of the road, like holding the deer back.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So, she says you put tobacco out and you ask the question and
Yeah.
she says they're there to help. So,
Yeah, I believe that too. The Bigfoot are to help, especially in time of crisis or disasters or whatever, or sickness and stuff like that. They seem to come around the villages more, which is kind of interesting. I've doing a lot of research on what is Bigfoot, where do they come from, why are they here. Going back, even researching the Bible, and found some interesting stuff. You may want to check this out. It's kind of interesting. So I went back in the Bible and talks about, Esau was a hairy person. Well, they also talk about Elijah. He was a man of God, and he performed a lot of amazing miracles, they say. And he was the one that got taken up in a whirlwind up into a fiery chariot. Sounds like a UFO to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, they described this guy, this person that got taken up. Well, he had an apprentice with him, and his name was Alicia. And they went around performing miracles and healings or whatever amazing stuff anyway. Well, anyway, as Elijah was getting taken up by the whirlwind, Alicia, his apprentice, wanted some of his power before he before he went up into the fiery chariot. So Elijah threw his cloak down to him, and then he grabbed it. And I guess the story is, after that Alicia, his apprentice, performed even more miracles than Elijah did. So it's starting to make me think of all the researchers across the United States that they're saying that these Bigfoots have some sort of can perform or have supernatural powers, gifts, or telepathy, stuff like that. So I don't know. That's just what it's interesting to see what the correlation is, because whenever we have Bigfoot sightings, there's always a UFO sighting at the same time.
And what do the UFOs look like that are being spotted at the same time?
Well, I don't know. They're just seeing lights in the sky. There was a Bigfoot sighting in Cass Lake, and there was where the sighting was. There was a lady there, two people watching a UFO right close to Mission, over the lake on Mission Bridge. They watched it for a good hour, and they left. And that was actually the same date that a Bigfoot was seen in the same area. So there is a connection. There's even stories of medicine men witnessing them going in and out of spaceships and stuff like that, the UFOs. Standing underneath UFOs and the lights beaming down on them, or they're holding stuff in their hands and stuff like that. So there is a connection. I know a lot of people who don't even want to acknowledge, or they just kind of don't want to hear it. I said, so I'm thinking there is a connection. Because Sammy Cleveland, when he saw that Bigfoot on 6 Mile, he also seen a UFO.
He did?
Yep.
What did that look like?
He said it was bright, multicolored lights went up into the clouds.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So was it a structure or was it just the lights?
He just seen lights. He didn't see all he could see was lights. So
one time we went back there just a few weeks after the initial visit that I had there. And this time we had brought a couple guys with us, and it just didn't seem like it was the same type of experience. So I said, we need to ditch these guys. So we had them drop us off and drive away, and we had like radio walkie-talkies to call them back when we wanted them to come back for us. Well, they went down that Reservation Highway 20 a ways, and they could kind of see where we were through the trees a little bit when we would turn on our flashlights. But we were down in the woods over by that boat launch, and I think maybe they were sitting in that clearing, perhaps while they waited for us. I'm not sure, or down that road a little bit, but they were facing towards us, and they said that they could see where we were sometimes when we turned on the lights. But the one girl's husband said that he watched a green light follow us just above the treetops, like wherever we were going, this green light was following us. And he said, I figured you probably saw it, and we didn't see it. Apparently it was watching us. But he said he watched it for about 35 minutes following us.
I got to experience one of those, seeing a fireball. I don't know if you heard of those or not.
Oh, yeah.
We were doing went on a Bigfoot we got called to go over to Inger, and because they said they heard like a couple of Bigfoot talking. They were talking like in sound like two Japanese people arguing with each other.
The
Anyway,
samurai chatter. I've heard
we
that
had
before.
So there was probably about 12 of us went out in that area, that kind of exploring that area out there. There is a boat landing there that goes out to Bowstring Lake. So we're in that area there, and 4 of us, we took a ride up a little further to see if we can hear anything, and we were seeing some strange lights across the bay there, and so anyway, we didn't know what that was. As we went up the road for we went up there about a quarter of a mile up the road, and we stopped. 4 of us, we got out and we're looking around, and I said, "Hey, what's that over there?" And it looked like a guy walking on a trail, walking through the woods, carrying a lantern. That's what it looked like to me. And kind of like bouncing along really slow. So I asked the guy who lived there, I said, I don't want to give no names here yet. He said, I asked him, is there any cabins or anything out? He said, no, there ain't nothing down there. So, yeah, that was my first experience of seeing I guess it'd be a fireball or some kind of a light. I know my grandfather and my grandma talked about fireballs and stuff like that, and they were always, back then, there was a lot of medicine men, and a lot of times they'd be throwing spells and back and forth each other. So these fireballs were supposed to have supposedly been sent by medicine men. And my uncle happened to, years ago, he told me that he caught one of these fireballs. He seen it, caught it, and he said that's the last thing he remembered. He woke up in the morning, as soon as he caught it, he said that's the last thing he remembered. He woke up in the morning, laying on the ground, and he looked at his hands, and his hands were all bluish colored. But before he passed out, he said when he grabbed that fireball, there was a face in it. And then that's all he told about that. Anyway, we were, me and Bob Olson were, we have these cameras, and we were going around checking out orbs at the cemetery north of us, and we were catching all these colored orbs. There was blue ones and pink ones, and so anyway, I zoomed in on a orb that I seen, and it was kind of a strange looking one. It looked like it had flames coming off the sides of it. So I zoomed in on it, and there was actually a face in it, a human face. And this face, it looked like a half skull, but half skull and half. But anyway, it wasn't kind of an evil looking face. But you could see the eyes and nose, the ears, the chin, and everything. I mean, I still got that photograph somewhere. So yeah, that's some of the things that's been happening around here. So that's why I'm thinking this town is close to a interdimensional portal or vortex.
I have to say that area is, I mean, northern Minnesota is incredible. And I'm not just saying for Bigfoot, but spiritually, I mean, you've got so much activity in northern Minnesota. That's why I love going there.
Yeah.
Jen? Oh,
I can't
sorry,
wait.
Tammy, you're all the way over there.
Well, I just had my niece also said that she knew of a person that told her that they were blueberry picking this summer or last summer, and she said she saw, her words were, a whole herd of them. So it must have been there's probably been 3 or 4 or 5 of them and all. She scared the heck out of her, and she got out of there.
Did you see babies or just adults?
Didn't say anything about their babies or anything. She just seen some big ones.
See, I've got a question about the story you were talking about before. You said that that friend of yours saw alien ships, he saw the lights. Did he tell you if they had a certain shape to the lights? Like, was it triangle, round? Did he mention it?
No.
Oh, I'm
He
just
just
curious.
said, he just said lights.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So I've had an experience with the fireballs, and it was like one touched me, and I felt overwhelming joy. Like it was overwhelming joy,
Hmm.
and put a story in my head, and it was a very native story.
Cool.
It was very, very interesting, and that's a long story, but uh, it was just a beautiful experience. And my elder told me that he knew that they would come to me. And to me, it wasn't a spell being cast or anything. It was a sentient being that was communicating with me.
Hmm.
So, but that was just a very beautiful experience for me. So, and the story was about being a wild rice seed
Yeah.
and the whole life of the wild rice, and it was a beautiful story.
Wow. That's about all the stories I got.
Okay.
You got any
Well,
questions, or maybe you want to ask me a few things, huh?
yeah. So I'm ready to go. I'm thinking, maybe this summer we could do something. Go out and look to get with you. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
take you to some of the hot spots here in Ball Club.
Oh, that would
Yeah.
be amazing.
Most people are where they're seeing a lot of this stuff.
That would be awesome. I would love that. Let's set that up.
Yes, please.
So how far, like if we wanted to go with you in May, uh, would we be welcome to do that?
Sure.
Yeah. Is that a really long walk back there, or is there a way that
You're talking about what's now the
the
dragon
dragons?
expects. Yeah, see, we'd have to take canoes and kayaks or whatever,
Okay.
and I do have plenty of boats and stuff, so you don't need to bring anything.
Okay.
That sounds so fun. I can't wait.
Jenna's about to jump
Maybe
through
you
the
could even
computer.
camp along the river there.
Oh, that would be fun. That
Yeah.
would be fun. Yeah, that sounds like a good time. I have done some camping along the Crow-Wing River on some of those camping sites where you can only get to by canoe. That was really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, in the area that I plan on going, it's pretty remote. Very uh, very few people ever go there.
That sounds like a great time. Well, that music tells me we're coming to the end of the show. I want to thank you, Don, for coming on the show. Is there any way that you want to tell people how to reach you in case somebody wants to reach you, or do you want to just not
Yeah,
be reached?
yeah, you can call if anybody has any Bigfoot sightings or cryptids or unknown things or whatever. Call me at 218-308-1451.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks to Don Sherman for joining us tonight. Thank you, ladies, for coming on. And thanks to all the listeners. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, thank you.
Bye.
We'll see you all next week.
Yeah,
Good
nice
night.
to meet you, Tammy.
You
Good
too.
night, everybody.
Good night, Jenna. Night, Jen.